What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to analyze the tape of the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line because I would make the argument that this offensive line had its best day of the 2023 NFL season against the Giants. And it's kind of not surprising because one of the things the Raiders did this game that they really didn't do the rest of the season is they ran more zone than power. And this Raiders offensive line was almost built to run zone over the past couple of seasons, and last season they really switched it up and ran a lot of power, and it hasn't been working this season. So they went to the zone run scheme, and the offensive line dominated on the ground game. A lot of holes opened up for Josh Jacobs. He had multiple 5+ yard runs. On top of that, the quarterback was generally kept clean. No sacks, no quarterback hits by the offensive line. And we're going to analyze the tape. Very, very fired up for it. Let's get right into it. You got a really nice 10-yard run on this one. The Raiders are going to run power on this one. And to me, this is a really nice job by the right guard, Greg Van Roten, a guy who I feel like has struggled in the past, but a guy that's really stepped up over the past 2 weeks. If you guys watch the right guard, watch him pull here, and I love the angle he's going to take. He's going to aim to the inside here of Thibodeaux, and initially Thibodeaux does kind of sidestep it a little bit, but Roten does a really nice job repositioning his body and getting right back to Kayvon Thibodeaux, and ultimately he keeps Thibodeaux off of Josh Jacobs. So that's a really, really nice job by him. And I love the block here by Colton Miller and the rookie tight end. The tight end's going to double team, really move this guy out of there, and then he's going to climb up to the backside linebacker. Just a really, really nice double team block. Really gets this guy out of there. Miller does most of the work, but Mayer definitely does a nice job as well. And he climbs up, and he's able to hold this guy just long enough that Josh Jacobs is able to kind of slip through there. That's a really, really nice job by the guys up front. This one picked up 10 yards. Let's get into the next snap. You got another split zone concept here. This one's going to pop for 8 yards. You got a really, really nice job here, in my opinion, by the right guard and right tackle. Both guys are basically going to end up in a double team block on arguably one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, especially against the run and Dexter Lawrence. You're going to get these guys to step over here to the left. Lawrence is going to slant towards the left, which means you're basically going to get a double team block on him. And watch the movement that these two guys are going to ultimately create on a very, very good defensive tackle. Great job by Roten to make contact. Jermaine Wilmer comes and really clears this guy out of there. It's a really, really nice job to take a guy and move him like 5-6 yards out of there. Josh Jacobs picks up 8 yards. An even better job, in my opinion, by Josh Jacobs. I mean, honestly, Kayvon Thibodeaux here has Josh Jacobs dead to rights. Like, look at this play right here. Thibodeaux's unblocked. Josh Jacobs and him are basically squared. And Jacobs just goes right by him. I mean, that right there is absolutely special. 8 yards on this one. Let's get into the next snap. Check this play out. You're going to get an 8-yard run on this one. Just a really, really nice job by the blocking up front. To me, this play right here was designed perfectly. It was executed perfectly. And this is how you have success when running the football. If you guys watch the right guard, Greg Van Roten, on this one, watch him climb up here to the linebacker and absolutely crush this guy. I mean, to me, it does not get better than that. Number 70 takes it to the linebacker and absolutely throws his ass onto the ground. He's going to hit him a second time, make sure he's on the ground. I mean, that right there is a beautiful block. And this one popped for 8 yards. But it's more than just Van Roten on this one. If you guys watch Hunter Renfrow and Jakobi Meyers, Meyers is going to do a great job pinning. Hunter Renfrow is going to come off and he's going to pick off the safety here, right there. That's such a nice block by both of those two guys. And of course, Illuminor gets out in front. He does pick off the cornerback. And Josh Jacobs is able to pick up 8 yards. Man, to me, executed perfectly. Now, I do want to back this play up really quickly. And I want to show you guys something within this play. If you guys look at Jakobi Meyers, look at what he ends up doing within the play. You can see he's down blocking on the front side defensive end. And I show you guys that because on the very next play, Jakobi Meyers is going to do something very similar where he's going to come down. He's going to point at the defensive end almost like he's going to block, and they're going to run that same concept that they ran just to play earlier. But this time he's going to go in motion, and it's actually going to be an end around. And this just worked perfectly because the slot cornerback also blitzed, and he didn't have the awareness to keep his eyes up. And he basically missed a wide open tackle on Jakobi Meyers had he just kept his eyes up. And Meyers ends up taking this one. So to me, this is a really, really nice 1-2 play. He picked up 8 yards or on the play right before this, where Jakobi Meyers down blocked on this one. He faked the down block. Instead, he goes in motion and takes the handoff. It's a really nice concept and design and execution by the offense. Let's get into the next snap. Check this one out. The Raiders are going to run outside zone to the left. And you're going to see Kayvon Thibodeaux reset the line of scrimmage. and basically make the play. Josh Jacobs is not able to get away from him. Play does still pick up about 3.5 yards, so it's not a total failure of a play, but Miller has to do a better job here on Thibodeaux. As Thibodeaux does cross his face, he needs to set up a little bit cleaner to the left side of Thibodeaux, which could give Josh Jacobs the outside lane. Obviously in this one, Thibodeaux does get a little bit too far to the inside, and Jacobs has no choice but to actually cut it back to the inside as opposed to the outside. At the same time, Colt Miller's not going to hold. He has to let this guy go, which he does, and he basically makes the play. Not a big deal, but I did want to point this one out. Let's get into the next snap. Check this play out. You got a 3rd and 5, and Aiden O'Connell is actually going to check into a run play. You'll see it here. He's about to give the signal right there. There it is. And he's going to check this play into a run. And the Raiders are going to end up picking up 4 yards. They're not going to get the first down, and they're going to ultimately punt the football away. But I actually like the check, and this play was very close to actually working. So I want to analyze the play a little bit. So the Raiders are running duo, which means you're going to get seal-off blocks by the guys on the very far outside. The guard will seal out. The center will ultimately just pick off the linebacker. And you're going to get a double team by the left tackle, left guard on Dexter Lawrence. And then the left tackle is going to release and get up to the other linebacker. But keep in mind, that's really a safety playing that linebacker position. And the Raiders actually have the numbers. Like, this play should have worked. But this is part of why Dexter Lawrence is such a special football player. Even when the Giants are going to play a light box, he's going to make the play, right? He'll 2-gap it. He'll take on the double team. And I do actually really like the fact that Aiden O'Connell checked into a run on 3rd and 5. You know, if the defense is going to give you the opportunity to run the football, and they're going to really back their safeties up, and they're going to double team Jacoby Myers, they're going to double team Devontae Adams, you want to run the football, right? So to me, this is a really nice job by O'Connell. Obviously, at this point, it was Amir Abdullah who was in on 3rd and 5 as opposed to Josh Jacobs, and he's just not able to push through and get those yards that were needed. I also want to state this. I think the double team by Miller is a pretty good double team. I think he does just enough to turn the D tackle there. Dylan Parham has to do a much better job to hold on to the block and not let Lawrence right there get off the block. That one right there is on Parham, in my opinion. Not a big deal. Let's get into the next snap. Check this play out. You got a 15-yard run. Really nice job once again by the offensive line. The guys really generated some movement up front against the Giants. In my opinion, I felt like the Raiders' offensive line looked good. Jermaine Illuminor is going to do a great job on his block on Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's going to really just kind of let this guy go upfield. He can just toss him over to the side. And that alone right there is going to create the outside leverage that Josh Jacobs needs for this play to ultimately hit. Greg Van Roten also does a pretty nice job with his block. Keep in mind this is zone, so everybody is going to take the step to the right. Roten does a good job holding the block long enough. And of course, Jacobs has that vision to really hit it to the outside. 15 yards just like that. Now, I do also want to look at some of the negative runs as well, because the Raiders, although they had a lot of 5+ yard runs, they did have runs that basically lost yards or gained nothing. So we're going to analyze a little bit of those runs in this video as well. Starting with the first one here, you're going to get a double team block on the nose tackle, number 97, Dexter Lawrence. And he's going to do a great job holding his block. And because he holds his block, the front side linebacker, number 41 here, is going to go unblocked. So this was Andre James's job, to process the guy coming into the A-gap and for him to pick this guy up, which would have allowed Jacobs to possibly bend it back into one of these lanes or possibly kick it back to the outside. He would basically have ended up in a one-on-one with the backside defensive end. But James would have had to pick this linebacker up. And in this instance, he's just not able to get there. Dexter Lawrence does a good job holding on to the block. Now, I'm not sure if he's actually holding Andre and not letting him go, because that is kind of what it seems like to me, but it's really hard to tell from this angle specifically. Not a big deal, right? But I did want to point it out that you do have these type of runs. And I kind of want to analyze what's happening within these plays. So on this one, that was on the center. But you can also see Andre James kind of gets up and he kind of throws his hands up here at the end of this play, basically saying that he was held, right? What the hell happened on this one? Someone called that play, but doesn't get called. Let's get into the next snap. Check this play out. Aiden O'Connell is going to hit Hunter Renfrow for a 13-yard pass on this one. It's a really nice job by O'Connell. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit about this play and break down why it's so important for the run game to really get it going. You know, if you guys watch this play, it is a play action, but the play action here to the running back is basically a split zone concept. You get the front side tight end here coming back on a backside block on the defensive end here, who basically goes unblocked. And it is pivotal that your run game gets it going, because that defensive end runs right into Michael Mayer. Like, that guy thinks that this is going to be a run, that this is going to be a split zone based off the look. And when you're having success running the football, it's going to slow down the pass rush. And for the Raiders, I feel like up to this point, the run game really hasn't had success. This was the first game where there were multiple big runs. Prior to this game, the Raiders were not having success, and I think that's kind of limited them a little bit. But now that they had success against the Giants, it'll be interesting as we move forward into next week how the Jets kind of approach the Raiders. I think the Giants blitzed a whole lot as well when it came to the passing game, which opened up some lanes for the quarterback. This is a good example here. This just doesn't make a whole lot of sense based off of how these guys are kind of lined up, right? You're going to have basically 4 guys way off the line of scrimmage. You have 3 underneath wide receivers, and there's really only one guy that can account for any one of those 3 wide receivers. And the Giants are going to blitz this linebacker, and there's just no way this guy is going to be able to cover either the slant or the guy going deep here on the vertical route. So it'll be interesting as we go forward what type of approach the Jets take. Are they going to blitz Aiden O'Connell, or are they going to pass rush with 4 guys in the hopes that they can get to him? We'll find out, but let's go ahead and get into the next snap. You got a really nice pass here by Aiden O'Connell. This one's going to hit for 50 yards. It's a 7-step drop. Aiden O'Connell's going to play action. Trey Tucker's going to run deep, and O'Connell's going to hit him perfectly. I mean, to me, this play does not get better from a design perspective. The execution, the pass, the route run by the wide receiver to create the separation. And of course, he's going to catch the pass. Now, this is a 7-man protection by the guys up front. But a big part of this play working, in my opinion, is the play action, as well as the fact that the team came out here in a cover 1. And this is probably something that's not going to happen that often anymore as we go forward. Trey Tucker being pressed, regardless of who the cornerback is, this one here just happens to run a 4.34 40-yard dash. Something tells me guys aren't going to press Trey Tucker anymore. I mean, to me, look at the separation that Tucker creates here. That's ridiculous. You don't get that type of separation unless you have real NFL speed, and Trey Tucker has that. And of course, just a great job all around by the offense. This one picked up 50 yards. That being stated, let's go ahead and get to the next snap. You got a 3rd and 6, and the Las Vegas Raiders are going to end up picking up 5 yards on this one. It's not enough to pick the first down up, but to me, this is a really nice job by the left tackle, Colton Miller. Miller has, in my opinion, become one of the best run blocking tackles in the NFL. And a big part of it is because the physicality he plays with, the technique he plays with. So you got a duo concept on this one, and Miller really turns 55. I mean, look at this. He absolutely gets underneath 55, and he straight up torques this guy up out of there. So the duo here is going to force a double. As soon as the linebacker steps up, Parham's going to get off. Then Miller's going to torque this guy and turn him to the right. Mayer does a pretty nice job with the block here, and it's really just one guy that could make the play. And that guy does make the play. It's a good job by him to ultimately get there, step up, fill his gap, and tackle Josh Jacobs. Jacobs does do a pretty nice job pushing through him, picking up that extra yard or so. 3rd and 6, they picked up 5 yards, weren't able to get the first, and they do ultimately settle for the field goal. Still a pretty nice run. Let's go ahead and get to the next snap. The Raiders are going to run a screen pass on 2nd and 20 to the left of the formation. It's a really nice job executing by the guys up front. Really nice job making contact and setting this play up. I mean, when you guys watch this one from the end zone angle, the blocking really lines up perfectly. So as the play is going to get snapped here, the left tackle, left guard, and right guard are all going to start to kind of run out there. The left tackle is going to block out to really seal the corner off. Roten's going to be the first guy to seal. Parham's going to kind of lead, and he can either seal or he can just kind of continue to lead upwards. And you're going to see they're going to do a good job. There's the seal by Miller, Roten. Parham takes the next guy, and of course, Carter's going to pick up 15 yards on 2nd and 20. Massive play. Great job blocking by the guys up front as well. To me, this is what the Raiders have to continue to do to have success. They got to have runs like this. They got to have passing plays, right? Quick screens and those type of things. They got to have these plays hit and pick up a number of yards the way this one did. Let's get into the next snap. Alrighty, guys, I want to go ahead and look at a couple more negative plays. We'll look at 2 back-to-back negative runs. I think these were some of the plays that really impacted the yards per attempt average, right? If you guys looked at how much the Raiders average, you may say, oh, it wasn't that good of a game, but, you know, there were a lot of negative plays, right? They ended up losing over 10 yards on negative runs. And I think that really brought the average down. Plus, Jacobs did have 2 1-yard touchdown runs. That also kind of brought the average down. But this is an interesting play because one of the things that Aiden O'Connell isn't is a quarterback that can run with the football. So one of the issues when you have 5 offensive linemen in and you're going to run a zone run, while the defense has the numbers, keep in mind, if you guys count the gaps here, every single gap is filled. There is no gap that's going to not be filled. And on this play, the Raiders are going to run zone, which means the backside defensive end is going to go unblocked. And here's the thing with Aiden O'Connell. He's not very fast. So this guy's going to naturally crash down and he's going to take the running back. Now, if this was Lamar Jackson, if this was CJ Stroud, they're pulling this right here and they're going to actually keep the football and they're going to run with it. Now, obviously, most of us agree Aiden O'Connell is not the type of quarterback to actually run with the football. But this is one of the things that if you're going to run these zone runs, don't run them out of empty formations. Make sure there's tight ends there. Make sure there's guys that are going to wham block, or make sure if you are going to run these type of concepts, don't run zone, right? Block that backside defensive end and let it be the inside linebacker here that's ultimately free, right? Don't let the guy that's 100% going to come downhill be the guy that's kind of free. Not a big deal. Did want to just point this one out because this one lost almost 4 yards. Let's go ahead and get to the next snap. So you got another run here. This one's actually going to lose 5 yards. And to me, this is just not a good enough job by the wide receivers. I think Jacoby Myers is a really good run blocker, and I think we've seen that a number of times now. But on this one, he doesn't do a good enough job. He's going to crack block on the defensive end, number 45. And he has to stop this guy in his tracks. In this instance, he doesn't. And what's going to end up happening is Michael Mayer, and we'll go ahead and get into this angle here. Michael Mayer is basically going to run into the same guy that Jacoby Myers is blocking. So right away, Jacoby Myers has to do a better job to stop this defensive end. Mayer's going to run into that guy as well. So now you got 2 guys on 1 guy. And that's not going to work because the numbers are now going to go and shift towards the defense. On top of that, Devontae Adams does not pick off the inside linebacker the way he should. And that guy basically makes the play. To me, this is a really, really bad job by Myers, by Adams. Those 2 guys have to do a better job. So Myers has 45. Adams has the linebacker or safety, whoever flashes first. And you can see Devontae Adams just doesn't do a good job here on the linebacker. And the play here loses 5 yards. So again, right, if you guys look at the yards per average attempt of the Las Vegas Raiders against the Giants, it may not be great, right? Because they did have a number of 1-yard runs that were on the goal line. They also had 10 yards over 10 yards in which they lost yardage. So that really impacted the average. But generally speaking, I felt like the offensive line had a really, really good day. And it'll be interesting to see how the Raiders kind of continue as they move forward. Will they continue to run zone? Will they switch back to a power-based offense? Something tells me this offensive line is going to have a lot of success as we move forward. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. We'll be doing Raiders content on this channel. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.